For the past few days now, I've not been on the chat. This is because I've been very busy and trying to get other stuff done. But I took a trade yesterday which was analyzed by one of my students, and I'm going to show you how it played out and probably the reason why it played out the way it played out in this video. But before we go into that, if you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Divine, and what I basically do on this channel is document how I trade, and as I'll show you the mindset behind my strategy. If you want to see content like this, I want you to smash the subscribe button and like this video. I'll be right back. Now this is the full setup. You can see GPUSD time frame, 15 minutes time frame. My entries are always done on the 15 minute time frame or on 5 minutes time frame, and this is the full marking and everything. I'm going to basically go back to the day time frame and show you how we arrive at this point so you can be able to understand clearly what we're doing here right now. The first thing we want to do is to basically understand direction of the market by simply using our trend line to identify support and probably the resistance. Now in this example here, or in this case here, you can clearly see this place is simply our point of support, where price is simply moving from this point here to this point. These are point of support, and for every support there is always a resistance, and here is clearly our resistance, right? When price gets to the resistance, it sells to the support. When it gets to the resistance, it sells down to the support. When it gets to the resistance, it's likely going to go to what? Support. Now for us to know if it's likely going to continue to the support, we want to simply identify our key levels. Here is the support key level, and here is also our resistance key level. Now I'm going to show you the reason why we had that sell opportunity that I showed you earlier on this video. Now our interest now is to simply understand how price is behaving from these key levels by simply identifying market structure and, most importantly, supply and demand zone on the 4 hours time frame. Now for us to identify market structure, you can clearly look at this chart from this point here. You can clearly see that price is giving us a low here, a high, a low, a higher high, higher low, a higher high. Our interest is to know if price is going to give us a higher low that will continue a higher high, or it's going to slightly give us a lower low that will go to our support key level here. That's our interest. And for us to know that, we want to simply identify supply and demand zones from the last swing low here, which is simply at this point here, and probably at this key level here. That means our interest to understand supply and demand zone is simply how price behaves from this swing low here to this point here, and how price behaves from this swing high here down to the current place where price is. That's our interest. Now if you look closer at this point here, we clearly see that price is giving us series of demand zone at this point here, and here is simply a point of demand here, and price also gave us demand zones at this level here. But look closely, all of these demand zones have been triggered aside for this last one here. Now having identified these demand zones, we also want to identify supply zones, and for us to identify supply zones, we want to also identify this point here, supply zones, supply zones as well too. So basically we are able to identify 2 supply zones and 1 demand zone. We're basically going to go to the 1 hour time frame and refine these zones to become point of interest, and also identify liquidity, because liquidity is going to help us to understand where price is going to go to next and how price is going to go to that point. Now if I were to refine the demand zone here, I clearly see that this point is going to basically be our demand zone here, or our demand point of interest. All of these points here is simply our point of interest, and for this point here, this is also our point of interest, and for this point here, this is going to be our point of interest. Now our interest is to understand how price is behaving at this demand zone here, to know if price is going to respect this demand zone or price is going to fail this demand zone. Now how did price behave when price got to this demand zone here? If you look closely, This is the point where price got to this demand zone, right? And how did price behave? If you look close at this point, can I see price was simply giving us equal highs at this point here, equal highs, meaning there's liquidity at this point, and this whole movement here simply took out the liquidity at this point. That means liquidity pot are taken, and meaning price must start going to the upside. But before price goes to the upside, we have to have a confirmation of a change of character that will allow us to go to the upside. And how do you understand how to identify the change of character? Is to simply understand that we've identified the liquidity at this point here. This point is the point of liquidity, and this place simply refers to as a sell-side liquidity, and there's as well a buy-side liquidity at this point here, which is a trend liquidity. This is simply a sell-side liquidity at this point here. Liquidity at this point, liquidity at this point here. Price are taking out liquidity. What it means is that price is likely going to take out this liquidity at this point here and probably go get to this point to continue the sell, because price is basically in a bearish momentum. Now, how do we arrive to that particular setup? Now, the way we arrive to that particular setup that I showed you at the beginning of this video is by simply identifying that price was basically coming from a downtrend, creating a series of swing high and swing low. And if you go to the 15-minute time frame, you want to clearly see the swing highs and the swing low. Now, in this case here, let me zoom up properly. This is a swing high, this is a swing low, this is another swing high, this is a swing low, this is another swing high, and this currently is swing low. So when price was coming down, was coming to the downside, this is the last swing high that price gave us, and this is the last swing low that price gave us. What it means is this: when price was coming down from this downtrend that price gave us on the 1 hour time frame here, all of this movement here, this is the last swing high, and this is the last swing low on this whole trend here. From this movement down to this point, this is the last swing high, and this is the last swing low. What it basically means is this: so long price is below the swing high, we are still bearish. That means if price is still below this level, we are bearish. The point where we can become bullish is if price take out this particular high here, causing a change of character. Then we're going to look for a bullish setup. Now, the reason why we're able to identify those, the reason why we're able to identify that bearish setup that I showed you at the beginning of this video is because of this swing high and this swing low. And in between this swing high and this swing low, we're able to identify this supply zone at this point here. This supply zone at this point here, right? We're able to identify the supply zone at this point here, and everything look valid for the supply zone to hold on the 15 minutes time frame. Why? Because there's liquidity at this point here, equal highs, and again there's also liquidity at this point here, equal lows, and this low here created an equal high, equal low. Sorry, there's also an equal low at this point here. So all of these things are building up liquidity at this point here that price is likely going to come for before price continues to the downside. Now in this case here, liquidity, and here as well, liquidity. And remember, we are bearish unless price take out this particular high here. We are bearish, and that entry came with the fact that we're able to identify the supply zone here, this liquidity here, and all of this liquidity at this point here. And when price took out this liquidity at this point here, we identified a change of character that made me to take this trade, and that occurred on the 5 minutes time frame. Now on the 5 minutes time frame, price was giving us low, high, and this is a low,
This is a high, this is also a low, this is a high, but this high could not give us a new high, but instead we had a low. So my entry began when I saw this point here. When price got this low here, I had an entry at this point here, and like this for a short, and my stop loss was simply at this point here, and my take profit was simply this liquidity point here. 15 minutes time frame. This point here, and likely this point here, and this was exactly the 1:2 risk to reward, which is a very good trade. So the whole idea behind this trade is because price is in a downtrend, and we're only going to become bullish if price take out this particular high here. We identify the supply zone here, identify liquidity at this point here, price of liquidity, and price give us a change of character, and we had an opportunity for a sell to this point here. But the reason why I closed this trade, I didn't allow this trade to hold run, is because it was a Friday, and at a point price became very choppy at this point here. Price was either going to the stop loss or it was either going to take profit. So I had to close the trade because it was a Friday, and I had to close with only break even or $3 loss. I'll put it in the screen. So that's basically how I arrived at this particular trade setup.